right. Welcome to the Family Business Podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kobe.
And we're father and son duo. We own a business together, and we decided to do this podcast to just talk through business. We end up doing it all the time anyway. We talk marketing, we talk business, we talk sales. And so it's a cool opportunity to do that and to explore some cool ideas revolving around business and our experiences doing it. So
Yeah.
we have a cool show planned for today. We're going to talk about failures. Not super fun, but it is good to learn from. Best lessons you ever learned, right?
Right.
What's the quote? I never lose. I either win or I learn a lesson.
Right. So true. Before we get started, I think you should stand up and do a little twirl. Your outfit's it's pretty cute today.
It's pretty cute.
Yeah, it's got
I'm styling.
the sweater, the white kicks on. If you can get them up.
Oh, not that flexible.
Pretty fly for an old dude.
My socks even match. Look at that.
Oh, he's got the pink
match.
socks on with the pink
My
shirt.
polo.
What?
Styling.
Looking good.
I've been waiting to pair those socks with this shirt because I like pink right now and
Waiting for the day that you can wear it.
but I kept wearing the pink socks and then they'd be dirty and then I'd be like, oh, I was going to wear that with that shirt. So
That's awesome. So my snowboarding pants are pink.
Yeah.
And the other day I pulled up to the mountain. I'm in we're in the big parking lot and they're coordinating everybody, right? And so I'm putting my boots on and I'm like kind of bent over, tying them up, whatever. And the parking kid in the parking lot goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, I need you to close your door for a second." And I stand up. And this was like after No Shave November, so I had a beard and stuff. And he's like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, dude." Like, just couldn't believe that he called me ma'am.
That's
but
awesome.
I get it. I mean, I'm wearing pink pants and from behind and snow clothes. Probably look like
pink's
a lady.
hot right now.
It is.
It's hot, yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Even our new logo for Connection Media is pink,
It's
know.
pink.
Yeah. I'm drawn to it. It looks sharp, and
For sure.
I've seen NFL players with pink cleats, and it's cool.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Kind of fun.
Cool.
I think you should show what you're doing for our logo.
For our logo?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can pull it up. I'm still tweaking with a bunch of the colors and stuff. Like everything's...
Yeah. I like
And
it so far, though. It's
looks
kind of
pretty
cool.
good.
So
Well,
it's got
let's
a
see
little
if I
bit of
can-
retro vibe to it. Plus, it's got that he's drawing us. Kobe's an incredible artist. If you haven't seen it before, you can go follow his Instagram. What's your Instagram?
I think it's art.kobe. I don't know. I'm in the middle of revamping everything, starting things back up. But here is and the ring light kind of makes it hard. But
That causes a glare.
There's maybe if I hold it back a little further, I don't know. Kind of hard to see, but family business. Kind of cool. I designed drew everything out on Illustrator, still tweaking the colors and stuff. And then
And then underneath it, we're going to put drawings of each of us.
yeah. And this will be I'm just working on a graphic of me right now. It's kind of backwards. Everything's flipped because
He
it's
made
on
himself
camera.
look 35.
And
in the
everybody's telling me, I showed some people at BNI this morning and they were like, "Dude, you look way too old in that." So I got to go through and kind of tweak some stuff. It's taken a while and I'm kind of relearning everything as I go.
Because I used to an Illustrator.
Yeah, I used to mess with Illustrator when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I just haven't for years because I just use Procreate on my iPad to draw.
Right.
Because it's a lot more free-flowing and like creative, whereas Illustrator is way better for designing graphics and stuff because everything's you can vectorize it all and blow it up as big as you want or whatever, But it's been kind of cool. I've just been relearning how to use all the tools and stuff, and it's just such a complex software.
Yeah.
Like I've spent hours just figuring out where stuff is, but it's kind of cool. It's been fun to
watch for the debut of the logo.
Right.
Soon. Yeah, it's gonna
very
come.
soon.
It's gonna be sweet when you see it. But I
one
like
day.
it so far. This is like iteration number 5 or something. So
Yeah, I've tried so many different things and completely restarted. And
that's how we are with logos, though.
yeah,
It's a
picky
work
about
in
it.
progress.
Yeah, I want it to be right though, so
Yeah,
I'm willing to spend some time on it.
for sure. We'll get it done. So this is episode 3, I think, right?
Yes. Yep. Episode 3.
Episode 3. So today we want to talk a little bit about failures. We talked about fears last week, or 2 weeks ago. You were out of town last week.
Yep.
So we talked about fears. This week we're going to talk about failures, primarily because I think a lot of times you see someone who's successful or who you view as successful, and you don't know what's going on inside their head. You don't know what they're dealing with on a personal level, and not only that, but they're not an overnight success. Like if they are successful, you didn't see the stuff they had to go through to get there.
For sure.
And so when a lot of people are afraid of failure, they're afraid of messing up, screwing up, making a mistake, and so this is an attempt to, one, normalize understanding that failure is part of life and embrace it, learn from it. And then for two, it's just good to talk about it and talk about some of the things. So you've been thinking about your biggest failures.
Yeah.
Let's go. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, I've got two.
Okay.
I've got one that really stands out because it was the first time I really learned a lesson the hard way in business. And I didn't even at the time realize that it was business. I was mowing lawns when I think I was probably 16.
16. Yeah. You were driving.
I was driving because I was pulling, that was when I started pulling my trailer around.
Yep. With our janky old Suburban.
Yeah. It was just as, the trailer was just as janky.
The trailer was worse.
It was bad.
It was like a patch job. We took a trailer we got for free, and then we built in a grass holder with just plywood, and it molded.
Super tall, and it was moldy and gross. But we painted it like this nasty purple color with racing stripes, and then put flames on the side. And it was
terrible.
It was terrible. But we had this one client, and he was kind of an older dude, very particular, wanted it mowed on a specific
He's a friend of mine.
time. He's actually but he was, he hired us out. This was the first summer that we had done his lawn. And I remember one week, it was me and my buddy, Isaac. And one week we wanted to just go do, I can't remember what it was. We wanted to go to the lake or something. So instead of mowing his lawn, we went to the lake and we were like, oh, we'll just do it tomorrow. And he sent me, or I think he called me. I think he left me a voicemail because he didn't get a hold of me because we were at the lake.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, just so you know, you're not going to be mowing my lawn anymore. He's like, we agreed that you were going to do it on this day every single week. And I didn't really communicate with him. I think I may have sent him a text or something and just said, hey, something came up.
Right. I'm going to the lake, but I'm not telling you I'm going to the lake.
Right. And I think this may have been the second time that it happened where I had to move it because of something real the first time, but then this time it was for fun. Anyways, he fires us, right? And so I'm like, crap,
and on
that
his
sucks.
end, he owns a business.
He owns a business.
He's probably getting time off, making sure things are covered so he can be there when you're mowing and pay you and do all that stuff. And so completely inconveniencing him like crazy.
Absolutely. And I was completely oblivious to that. I didn't think of that. I just wanted to go to the lake. But I learned a valuable lesson because he fired me. And I was like, okay, this is a responsibility. Like, these people are hiring me to be here when they want me to be here. Yeah. And they're going to pay me to do the work that I'm supposed to do for them. And if I don't do it right then and there, then they're going to find it elsewhere, And so that was very valuable to me.
What's funny is, as a parent, you really want your kid, I really wanted you to learn work ethic and responsibility and all of these things. And I had that same thing happen to me. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. I grew up in Las Vegas, and there was a family my family knew through church, and they called my mom and said, hey, I was a teenager and they needed some really grunt work done in the middle of the summer. It's super hot there. They had kind of a ranchette, if you will, kind of a bigger lot. And then they had this wall, and behind the lot was this kind of water retention wash thing. And the wife really wanted it cleaned out, and it had really high tumbleweeds and stuff. And it was really, just looking bad. And you could see it when you were coming up to their house because you came up from behind. So anyway, she hired me to clear this thing out, and she was going to pay me whatever an hour. I don't know. I'm old, so it was not very much, but it was the worst work, and I was just not happy. So I would show up late, and I would stand back there and just barely, I just wasn't putting effort in, and I didn't want to be there. I mean, there's a lesson in not accepting jobs that you're not willing to do.
Right.
But I wanted the money, and so I was willing to do it, supposedly, but I was not in a hurry to get this done, and I was moving slow. And she called and fired me through my mom because they were friends.
Yeah.
And so she called and fired me, and I was devastated. I was I could tell I disappointed my mom. And I was just so discouraged. I was like, I'm such an idiot. But it was a great lesson. Like,
Yeah.
do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
Be where you say you're going to be when you say you're going to be there. Like, those were good lessons, and I'm sure you took from that too. So for me, thank you. We're not going to name names here.
Yeah. Right. Thanks
But-
for firing us.
It was a good lesson for
Yeah,
Kobe. So
for sure,
it
yeah.
was really good, and for Isaac too.
Mhm.
So
yeah, and he continued with the lawn care business, and
Yeah.
I know he's very on top of that now. I'm sure he remembers that very
sure.
vividly, just like I do.
yeah,
But we got fired, and then it was funny. Like afterwards, I was like nervous to go to his restaurant and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what if he remembers me and remembers me sucking? And I don't think he remembers me at all.
Doesn't he?
It's been years.
Well,
and
yeah,
I've been there multiple
you
times.
change
but
a lot from in that age period.
for
so.
sure. Yeah.
But he probably does. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's a
Well,
good
and I'm
dude.
sure he is a good dude, and I think
Yeah.
he wanted to teach me that lesson
did.
because he saw me as like, okay, if you're going to run a business, you
Yeah.
gotta, that's. And I remember him saying something along those lines, like, I hope you remember this. Like, you gotta be on
Awesome.
top of your stuff.
What
and
a stud.
yeah, shout out to that guy, unnamed
Do you
guy.
think I don't think he'd be embarrassed if we mentioned him.
I don't think so.
So it's James from Lost Texan.
The Lost Texan
Barbecue.
yeah, freaking phenomenal
Great barbecue.
Oh my goodness,
Amazing.
so good.
So
yeah,
it's in Pleasant View. If you're interested in some barbecue, come grab some.
Yep.
Somebody posted on Facebook, what's the best barbecue in Ogden? And like 10 people were talking about Lost Texan
Yeah.
on there. I was like, yeah,
It's
legit.
great barbecue.
So I was
Yeah.
going to go put it on there, but it was well represented already. So
yeah, right.
yeah. Anyway, thanks for good lesson.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what's your second one?
So the second one is actually a lot more recent. So it was with RoofMax. It was this past season. Well, it wasn't this past season. Let's see. So it was a customer, and she was treated about 1.5 years ago, I want to say. And at the beginning of this past spring, I received a phone call from her, and she's like, hey, we're getting some shingles blowing up in the wind. They're just kind of flapping a little bit. She lives in a very high wind area, so
Yeah.
it's really hard when we do like a tune-up and go seal down all the shingles we can find that are loose. It's easy to miss some, and just over time, just sitting in the sun, they're
Yeah.
going to get loose anyway. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, let me know, when a good day, like when you're going to be around, and I'll come repair them. I was like, I can come out this week, whatever. She's like, well, I have an insurance agent coming out to look at it. She's like, they should be out here tomorrow. Whatever. So she has the insurance agent come out, and I'm like, just let me know when he's done, and I'll come out and repair it for you. Then she, I didn't hear back from her, and I just got busy. It was spring, and so
Yeah.
I was doing a ton of estimates and stuff, but I came back, I get a text one morning, and it's a photo of half of her roof in her front yard. So some roofers had ripped all the shingles off, and they're sitting on a tarp or in a dumpster, I can't remember, but they were just covering her yard. And she's like, she was just super angry. It sent this long text, and she's like, we had to replace half the roof. The roofer told us that you didn't do anything to the shingles. There wasn't any glue holding them down. He didn't the roofer
Right.
didn't understand what the product was, and so he's expecting to find glue, like actually holding the shingles down
Sure.
better. Whatever. But the roofer essentially told her, yeah, they didn't do anything. You need to replace this roof right now. It's under
Right.
warranty for 4 more years through us. But because I didn't, there were certain things I could have done probably
Sure.
to have her communicate with me first rather than have a bunch of roofers come out who are obviously going to try and sell her a roof. But she's demanding a full refund, right? Threatening to sue us. And I'm super frustrated, probably got a little too frustrated with her at first. And I was just like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you talk to me? It's under,
Right.
and then, that causes a lot of stress for us because she's expecting a full refund, which,
Right.
For us is the cost of the product, which is super expensive. I
Right.
think it was about $1,700 worth of product,
Right.
and then $4,000 to give her money back. So it's like we're out,
Yeah.
$6,000 essentially, just in materials and then cost, for her. And so I'm like, gosh, we don't have an extra $6,000 laying
Right.
around that we can pay her off. So I'm super stressed out about it, trying to figure out what to do through RoofMax with the warranty. And I'm like, I don't want to pay this lady back, but it might have to. We don't want a bad
Right.
review, that's going to kill us for years. And so we ended up actually calling a lawyer. We were talking to her, and she's
Yeah.
like, honestly, the best thing that you can do in this situation is to appease her. Whatever
Right.
whatever her needs are, whatever's going to make her feel satisfied is what you have to do, because that review that she could leave, even if, and I mean, she's an older lady, so it might not be her, it might be her granddaughter
Right.
or, you know, her daughter, you know, somebody in her family that's a little more tech savvy and a little more, you know, they know that that bad review is going to hurt us. So she's like, whatever it takes to pay her, you know, pay her back. It might cost you
Yeah.
a ton now, but just know in the future, you know, we hadn't really had a contract. We didn't really have something for people to sign. And I think it was just, you know, a little bit of me just being naive and thinking, oh
Right.
yeah, people are good. They're going to pay me, you know, but we didn't have her sign anything saying
Right.
that this is non-refundable. So, I mean, there's like 6 or 7 different lessons packed into this one story, but I ended up going back to her house. I did a bunch of repairs because I didn't replace the whole roof. And so she did have some shingles that were loose. But I paid her back. You know, we paid her back for the treatment, and then now she's like, she wants to be my best friend. It's hilarious because I was like so frustrated and
Yeah.
like stressed out about it. And then the last time I went back to her house to give her the check, she's like, "Oh, honey, come in. Like, I want to introduce you to my sister and like all this." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like, why do you like me right now?" We were like screaming at each other on the phone like 2 weeks ago, you know?
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool because, you know, in hindsight, looking back, now I see it as, okay, I turned this, what could have been really bad and really
Right.
hurtful to us, you know, through a bad review or whatever, a Better Business Bureau review or
Right.
whatever, you know, I turned that into a positive. And like, if I went to her right now and tried to, you know, get a testimonial from her or something, I'm sure she would leave us a review. I'm sure
Right.
she'd give us a 5-star review because I just made sure,
She's
I was
happy
like,
with us.
you know, it's more important to me that our customers are taken care of,
Right.
even though it was probably not the best roof for us to spray. I think it could have made it with some repairs, but
Yeah.
it was kind of on the edge. And at the beginning, I just wanted to just, you know, get
Close the
some jobs
deal.
and close the deal. But now I realize
Well,
I shouldn't have.
The thing is, like, it's not even that you shouldn't have, because I feel like the deception was probably on the roofer's part.
Sure.
And even if it was an intentional deception, because he didn't understand the product
Sure.
or the warranty that we offered. And so, and the insurance guy is probably like, you're going to need a new roof. And
Right.
instead of actually looking into it and realizing what we had done to the roof, and shingles coming missing, that's part of our guarantee. So we'll go back out and replace them.
Right.
Probably would have been fine.
Probably would have been
But
fine.
that isn't what happened.
No.
And it doesn't really matter what we think.
Yeah.
Because the roofer had already torn off the roof.
Right.
It was already done.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, you know, basically just kind of up a creek. It was
Right.
too late for us to remedy the situation. And I think a lot of times I see this in business owners. They get this pridefulness of like, well, I'm not wrong.
Right.
And they're probably not.
For sure.
But sometimes being right doesn't help the situation.
No.
I don't think we were wrong. I don't think we owed her the money for her roof replacement or any of
No.
that. However, for me, it was a form of marketing.
Right.
And it was a situation that was terrible. It wasn't fun. It hurt like crazy. It was right at the beginning of the season when we had just come off a really long winter. So we were
Yeah.
cash poor.
Yep.
We didn't really have the money. And so we had to fork over all this money to a gal. But I looked at it and I'm like, that's marketing.
Right.
It's a marketing expense, because if we get her to, like, angry people tell a lot of people about their problems.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, happy people don't tell as much, but we decided it was worth the investment. And it was a dumb situation. Like,
It wasn't really either of our faults.
right.
It was
just a dumb thing.
yeah.
It just happened, and the order of events, and she's probably naive a little bit in inviting a roofer over, and then he's like, we got to get this up. Like, we got to
gotta
go right
replace
now.
this, right,
He's
yeah.
using his sales pitch. I don't blame him, whoever that was, for
No.
that. But, like, we would have done it differently, right? And,
Right.
and so she didn't give us that chance. So it's frustrating in those moments, but good lessons learned. And
Right, for sure. And I, you know, kind of back to what you were talking about earlier, where you're talking about looking at super successful people, right? We all kind of have role models and people that we look up to. And, you know, I have a ton.
Right.
And looking at those people, you don't see those failures. Each and every one of those people probably has more than most. And that's why
sure.
they're so successful, is because they've taken those failures and they've
Yep.
learned from them. And so, I mean, we had to
true.
learn a lot of things through this situation, where it's like, okay, first of all, we need some reserve just in case somebody freaks out like this again, or some
Right.
crazy accident happens, or, whatever.
You never know.
We need some reserve for that. And then we also we wrote up a contract. So now we have an agreement when people, are.
And they understand what things are. It's in
They
writing.
understand, and I walk them through it. And I say, this is non-refundable. We are not going to pay you back. And so,
Right.
We didn't realize that we needed those things. But
Right.
for the one customer out of, we've probably done 120 roofs now, somewhere around there. The one out of 120,
Good lesson learned.
if we would have had that contract before, we would have, so it's just learning those. And I think a lot of people going into business are probably scared of those failures, scared of those things that you can't control. But the thing is, I feel like more often than not, you can turn it into something good, even if it feels terrible in the moment. Because it didn't feel good to lose $6,500 right there.
Nope.
After that job, I was like, gosh, that sucked, and I spent a ton of time
With
not
her
only
and
it just
answering the problem. And
it was kind of a nightmare situation, where I was it took tons of time from me, tons of money. But now we're better prepared for next time when something like that happens.
Right.
And I don't know, kind of cool that we were able to learn from it rather than just.
So this one time,
Taking
your
on
Uncle
the
Matt, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is a successful orthodontist and businessman down in Las Vegas. And I was telling him about, I can't really remember what it was, but I was telling him about some money I lost or put into something, and it just turned into nothing. And it was quite a bit of money. And it was a business expense, but it still, I wish I could remember what it was, but I just remember sitting next to Uncle Matt, and I was telling him about it. And I said, it's, man, we lost this money, or it didn't go well. I wish I could remember what it was, because I could tell you more details. And he was like, he's like, I call that tuition. And I thought that was such a valuable lesson, because sometimes you invest in something and it doesn't work.
Right.
And you can learn two lessons from that. Did you put enough into it with the investment? Some things are outside of your control. I think I know what it was. We had paid for this education seminar thing where we would go and learn, and it was really hyped well. And when I got into it, I was like, man, I could teach most of these classes. Like, this is basic knowledge.
Yeah.
But I still got some good value out of it. But they went out of business when COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
So we lost like half of our investment.
Oh, yeah.
They already had the money.
Holy cow.
And then we couldn't get the classes because they were just gone.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was very frustrating, and it was a big investment. I think it was like $30,000. It was a massive one. And we had to take out a loan to pay that $30,000. It was crazy. And it was really kind of just a punch in the gut when you lose, $15,000, if you will. And I also wasn't feeling like the investment of $30,000 was worth it when we were into it. It just felt like it was a year-long process, and you had a coach, and you had all these things, like valuable stuff, really.
Sure.
And we did get some good information out of it, but to lose half of it was really discouraging.
Oof.
So, but Matt was like, it's tuition.
Right.
And it's true, especially as a business owner, that kind of number would have completely freaked me out when I was first starting in business. $30,000, it just seems like a crazy amount. And it is. But when you're in business, your expenses are a lot bigger,
For sure.
My print bill on an average month is like $20,000 to $25,000, just every single month. So it's almost that same investment that for 1 month of printing. So,
right.
But anyway, that's chalk it up to tuition.
Right.
We paid tuition on that one, but
I like that. Matt's awesome.
He's awesome.
He's super smart.
Super smart, good businessman, very successful. So my failures, I've been thinking about this since we decided this was our topic too. The first one, this actually reminded me of the pink shirt. Yeah. Because my wife and I dated for about a year and a half before we actually got married. And most people who know us don't know this part of the story, but we met in college. We dated for 4 or 5 months. I don't remember the exact timing, but we were in love and we wanted to get married. I had a ring custom made. It was pretty quick, a lot quicker than I was actually comfortable with.
Yeah.
And we got to this point where we started kind of bickering, fighting, which we don't really fight very often. We really have a good relationship. It's nice to be in a relationship where we don't argue. Like, we disagree on stuff for sure, but
sure,
it's just not a common thing. And it's usually my stupidity that we're fighting over. So we were engaged. We had a date set. And one of the things that I decided I was going to die on the hill of was she wanted our colors to match her mom's colors from her wedding when she was getting married, which were pale pink
yeah,
and like a sage green. really pretty colors.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I was way too macho to have pink at my wedding.
Your wedding.
And I knew all my buddies were going to just roast me if I let us have pink as our wedding color. So I threw a fit. And Mom is pretty easygoing. Mm-hmm. She wasn't going to stand for it.
Yeah.
So she was just like, no. So anyway, that was one of our fights. And we actually broke up soon after that. Not just over that, but over quite a few things that were happening. And so I look at that and we broke it off. Like we were done. I was, crying in my cereal every morning. I was miserable. I was unhappy. And I knew I had screwed up. And I didn't think there was any way I was going to get the opportunity back. And so I was just devastated. Through some cool circumstances, we actually got back together and reconnected and got engaged. And our love really hadn't dimmed. It wasn't quite figured out yet. It wasn't quite the right timing. And so when we did get back together, it took another probably 7 or 8 months. So whatever it is, it was about 1.5 years that we total from when we met to when we got married. And anyway, grateful that I didn't screw that one up. That would have been a massive failure, and you wouldn't even exist.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So
glad you didn't screw that one up.
Yeah. And then, but from a business standpoint, I have so many. It's actually kind of sad, and if I had to list them all out on paper and like reveal it to the world, I would be so embarrassed. But even though we're talking about how good failure is for you, oh my gosh, it makes me sick to think about these. But my biggest one so far, and I say so far because there's always that opportunity to make another big error, but it was 2006. In 2005, I left Cutco. I had, that was kind of my first real job was a district manager for Cutco. We ran a sales office, learned a ton, great opportunity. And I left there. And I quickly moved into a new career, which was mortgages and selling these investment packages and helping investors, real estate investors, get loans and do deals on houses. And I just remember sitting across the closing table so many times when these investors would close on these deals and they would make profits of $25,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 on deals that they had done. And I just remember thinking, I'm on the wrong side of this table. Like, I can do that. I can do what that guy's doing. So for 3 years, I thought that as each of these deals would close, I'd think, man, I got to do something like that. So 2005, if you do the math, to 2007, I'm just fuming that I'm on the wrong side of the closing table. And so we dive in. I get 2 partners, and one's a real estate agent. The other one was a mortgage officer with me. And we start looking at, and we find a way to buy some houses. And we bought, I think, 3 houses over the course of a few months. And they were foreclosures, so they had a little bit of fixing up to do, and we'd fix them up, and then we were getting ready to sell them. Well, in the course of that 3-month period, if you remember the 2008, you're too young for it. But
I was 7, but
yeah, exactly. But anybody who's a little older remembers 2008 because the real estate market crashed, and it crashed super fast. But we were buying these houses that had at least 30% quote unquote equity in them
that you could, make.
That we could make by once we fixed it, sell them and make this profit. Well, we thought even if like Mom, in her wisdom, and she's a very prayerful person, and she gets answers. And she's like, I just don't feel like you should do this. I get a bad feeling about it. And I was like, whatever. And then you read or watch the news, and the news is like, real estate is really, in trouble. There's some problems in the economy, like all this stuff, all these warning signs of like, don't do this. And I'm like, I can still do it. Because even if you buy a house, like, what's the likelihood that I buy a house that has 30% equity in it because it's a foreclosure, the market's going to lose 30%. Even if it loses 15%, we'll just discount it and take a lower amount on it. We're going to be fine. That's the way my logic works. It took about 30 days, and Las Vegas was one of the first to crash because it had a massive bubble, and it was also one of the fastest crashes and one of the biggest. It was 50% on those houses.
Holy cow.
So now we're in the hole, and we had borrowed money from friends and family and from ourselves, right? But if you're only affecting yourself, you can only look in the mirror and be like, you're an idiot.
Right.
But we were not affecting only ourselves. We had friends and family involved in this.
Yeah.
It was a mess. Like, it was just so terrible and frustrating, and just one of those times in life where you don't even know what to do, because you have these houses now, and we had somebody decide they wanted to rent to own our house. They would travel to Vegas for fun and for business, from Texas, I think, or something like that. Had another one that was a pastor, and his income changed, and he sold his house to us, but then he rented it back from us. And then the market changed, and we were going to sell it. And then he was like, well, I want to rent it. So we rented it to him for a while, and then the market changed, and he quit paying us rent.
Oof.
So we had these mortgages, I can't remember what it was. It was like $12,000 a month in mortgages that weren't ours, that we weren't living in. And my partners, they're like, we can't do anything. So one of them left and went back to college. The other one moved back home. We moved into one of the properties so we could live and not have multiple, more payments than necessary. But some of the houses we were able to short sale. Some of the houses they actually went to foreclosure. I think only one ended up going to foreclosure. One of them we sold, but we lost about $100,000 on it. It was all we had bought that one cash. Like, we had used our money, and then my parents had put some money in on that one, and it was a little condo, and we didn't do our research. You couldn't have renters in this condo. And then we had a water leak right after we bought it, and it ruined all the carpet. So just so many problems, and our lack of experience and my stupidity and not listening to mom and not listening to the warning of, experts, and really over leveraging ourselves, using all of our cash and getting into these spots. It still to this day just makes me sick to think how dumb we were, and how much of how painful it was. One of the worst experiences of my life. It was really bad. So kind of wild. But.
And I remember that, obviously I was 7, but I remember that time, that period, it was stressful, and we were moving on. We ended up moving here.
Yeah.
After, shortly afterwards.
That was after the house foreclosed.
Yeah. And then moved up here, and
the bank came to us, and what was common back then, which we would have never done this, but if there was a tenant, and we were a tenant to our company, right? The company owned the property, but we were a tenant. If there was a tenant in a property and they came and said, your house is being foreclosed on, the tenant would a lot of times get angry and damage the house and steal things like light fixtures and copper out of the walls. It was kind of crazy. And so banks got into a pattern where they'd come and say, hey, we'll pay your moving expenses. We'll give you $3,000 or whatever to move. We're sorry this is happening. And when they said that, they were like, we'll give you $3,000. I was like, sold. Because we were struggling. We didn't have anything at that point. And I was kind of I was working, but I wasn't happy with that, and I was looking for something else. And so that's when we made the decision to move up here. We lived with your grandma for a little while, and then I looked for work up here. And the economy wasn't as bad in Utah. It didn't get hit. It still got hit, but not quite as bad as Las Vegas. And so it just seemed to be a little bit better. So, yeah. Well,
and it sounds like that's kind of a long-term, that affected you for a while. It wasn't just like with the stories I'm talking about, I lose a lawn. I'm not mowing a lawn a week. But failures can be any shape and size. They can take forever. But I mean, if that hadn't have happened, we probably wouldn't have moved here.
True.
We wouldn't live in Utah.
Right.
A lot of things would have been different.
Your mom says this all the time, but she's like, every time we've had a really hard thing, really like this, like what the story I just told. Anytime we've had that, she says, it's like Heavenly Father's paving the way for us to find something better. And she's right. Like, every one of those that has happened in our life, there's always something better on the horizon.
On the other side.
Right. But you have to go through all that crap to get to the other side and to feel like you actually got there, or to even realize. I remember I worked at Living Scriptures. They sell these animated scripture movies, right? And the time came. I loved my boss, and I loved the work that we did. Like, it was just one of those jobs where I just liked it. I liked what we did. I liked what we represented. I felt like there was a lot of evil in the world of entertainment. And so I was like, if we can sell these videos and help families have just a different choice, I just liked it. But the time came to an end.
Yeah.
And it was kind of coupled with some hard things. So a lot of my managers got big offers to go sell solar, and solar was on the rise at that point. And so they all got these massive offers of a ton of money. I couldn't even blame them for leaving, but I had 4 managers leave. And so I almost was down to skeleton crew, and I was like, I have to rebuild this whole, like, it was really discouraging, but the writing was also on the wall.
Yeah.
DVDs were going out. And I could tell, because I would go into the mall, we would offer free DVDs for people to tell them about the videos. And I would talk to our prime client, which was these young families with kids, and I'd say, hey, do you guys want a free DVD? And they would say, man, I don't even have a DVD player at my house. And I'm like, what? And then every once in a while they'd be like, well, I have an Xbox. I guess we could play at the Xbox. Like, they literally just didn't think that way, which I know you don't have a DVD player.
No.
I don't have a DVD player anymore, but at the time, it seemed like something everybody had, and all of a sudden, none of the younger generation were getting DVD players, and streaming was on the rise. Like, it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now.
Sure,
but it was
a little
big.
different.
It was growing. I knew it was time to leave. My boss knew it was time to leave, and he came to me and he's like, you have 2 choices. We love you, and if you are going to commit and say, I will rebuild this, then we'll work with you, and because a lot of my revenue was gone like instantly. When you lose a manager, a lot of their team will quit. Like, it doesn't stay together the way, especially in direct sales. And then, but they also said, if you want to move on, I understand that too. Here's the severance package. And I knew it was time to move on. And I cried. Like, I was just so upset because I had never really loved a job like that. I'd never really loved my boss like that. Like, he's still a really close friend of mine.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, though, I needed that. It gave me the opportunity to grow into the next thing. And so sometimes failure is also a sign where it's like, hey, there's something better, something different or new on the horizon. So anyway, sometimes you just have to embrace it. But it never feels that way in the moment. No. You just want to be
It's
upset.
always in hindsight that you're like, oh, that was actually a good thing. I'm glad that happened. In the moment, though, it always sucks.
Not in the moment.
Yeah.
I got a few of those right now where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, me
this
too.
business.
It's like, ugh. It's hard to think about them, but it's good though.
Yep.
And it's normal. That's the one thing that I learned, like, just, it's only been a couple years, like, officially, with RoofMax, but I've always watched people and, my role models, and it just seems like everything goes so well for them. You don't ever see that side of things, but everybody has their failures and their things that have sucked and that they've lost tons and tons of money on, and that they think they'll never come back from, and then it always seems like you find a way.
Yeah.
So,
and the social media world makes it even worse because we don't really post our failures. We don't do that. But
yeah, I'm not posting that picture of half of a lady's roof in her yard saying, hey, this customer that got sprayed a year ago.
Maybe we should. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. We could probably turn it around and get a little, interview with her or something and make it even better, really turn it into a positive. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think our time is done.
Should we wrap things up?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
So,
make sure to
embrace your failures.
Embrace your failures and like and share the podcast. I don't know what you're listening on, but it's not that hard. Just go click the little button. It's either a like, or you can rate it, or leave a comment, or whatever. So
well,
it just
I'd love
helps
to
get it
hear
out.
about other people's failures too.
For
Something that you learn from. It'd be cool to hear that.
Yeah,
so.
share your stories about your failures that are not too crazy. I mean,
and
if you had to flee the country, don't tell us.
We're also going to bring in Kobe's siblings and his mom, my wife. We're going to talk to him about business. I think it'll be fun. So next week
is Gray.
Yeah. He's my 12-year-old, my youngest
little bro,
and he's funny.
He's hilarious.
He's awesome because he has this, like, he's grown up around Kobe and I, being the youngest and the only other boy. Yeah. He's always listening, and we'll talk business, and then he'll go off to his friends' houses and he'll talk to their family about marketing or something, and he's like, well, that's like good marketing or whatever, and like he has an opinion on all this stuff. It's pretty sweet.
That's hilarious.
It'll be fun to hear what his thoughts are on business, and he wants to be a YouTuber, a famous YouTuber when he grows up, and
he's getting there.
Yeah, he's actually incredible at Rocket League. So
I know.
I don't know. Maybe he'll be a professional Rocket Leaguer.
Yeah.
So, or
We'll see.
YouTuber showing people how to play Rocket League. I don't know.
Right. I guess we can ask him once he's on the podcast
Yeah,
next
I'm sure
week.
he has a plan.
Make sure and tune in, guys.
Yep. Tune in
So-
next week. So, okay.
Alrighty. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.